right, good evening and welcome to the Tobago Inspirational Network. It's Saturday night and we're going to have another Saturday night conversation. I know we had a little rest over Christmas and all of that, but it's time for us to get going again. And tonight, I believe we're going to have a great discussion. We have with us a financial coach, Crystal Celestine, very qualified, very experienced, and, she's been popping up all over Facebook, giving little tidbits. And we have her for 1 hour tonight that we will talk money, we will talk finances, and let me just say, Crystal, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to be here to talk about this topic that I'm very passionate about. Welcome to all the viewers, everybody out there. I hope that whatever we talk about today will help you in some way, will bless you, will cause you, will help you to grow in some way. So I'm just really happy to have this opportunity.
Right. So let's start. I like to make it as practical as possible. And, I was mentioning to you earlier that before I gave my life to Christ, there was one thing that really bothered me about Christianity. And in fact, it was the main reason I was not giving my life to Christ, because I would ask myself, if God is so good, why are Christians broke? Why don't Christians have money? Why aren't they demonstrating this bigness of God, this God who owns cattle on 1,000 hills and so forth? And I couldn't figure it out. And, eventually I gave my life to Christ. And one of the first things when I had that ability and I understood how to communicate to the Holy Spirit, I asked him that question. That's the first thing I said: why are Christians broke? And he said, it has nothing to do with me. It's not a God problem. God has already released everything that we need to do well in this life. So the problem really has to do with the individuals. And then he started telling me, he said, listen, for some people it's just laziness. So they have a vision, they have talent, but they're just not putting it to use. And laziness could be subdivided into different categories, subcategories. And then he said, so there's laziness, there is fear, F-E-A-R, fear, right? So some people, I don't want to step out. I like this job. I don't want to, if God is telling me launch into a business, what if I lose, right? So some people, it's fear. Some people is a squandermania. So you get it or you lose it, poor management. And he was just explaining to me there are a lot of different reasons why people don't do well financially, but it has nothing to do with whether or not God wants you to do well financially. That is very clear. That's why the Bible says, I pray that you will prosper and be in good health. So that is established. So let's jump out at that point. I know you've been a Christian longer than I have been. You have come across a lot of people struggling financially. What is your take in terms of what is the problem? Why are people struggling so much to really get off the ground financially?
But before I get into that, I just want to comment on what you said before about, the whole perception of Christianity, and that, a lot of people have this reflection that being a Christian and people not have money, and you're a particular way that is not necessarily prosperous. And one of the things I know is that God wants us to reflect Him. And if it is that our God is this mighty, glorious God, then we should reflect Him like that. So we have to look a particular way. We have to be a particular way with our finances in terms of finances. And that, to me, that's wrong. That's a wrong concept. And I think that would have stemmed from this that we misinterpret a lot. Money is the root of all evil, and that is not exactly what you said. It's the love of money, but that's a whole different thing. I'll not address your question about what are some of the things that people do as it pertains to not being able to get their finances in order. And I would have to start by not setting goals. right? We want to be rich, we want to be wealthy, but we don't have a plan exactly of how we're going to get there. So, one of the first things that I would advise my clients to do is to write down, think about your plans, think about your goals, what do you want to accomplish. And after you've set your goals, then we can come up with a map or some action plans as to how we're going to get to that goal or how we're going to achieve that goal. So one of the first things that I would encourage anybody who wants to turn their financial situation around is to have goals. Some typical goals might be I want to start my business this year, I want to buy my car this year, I want to buy a house this year. But what are we going to do after we set those goals? We have to have some action plans which will guide us in our decision making. So that's just to answer that question. What are your goals?
All right. And and it's very important. I mean, it's loaded a lot of things we can now dissect out of what you said there just now. But let's look at some of those problems that the Holy Spirit pointed out to me, and then we're gonna jump into the wider area, setting goals and so forth. Uh,
Right.
Fear.
Hmm.
How big a problem is that? I mean, people are fearful of stepping out of their comfort zone. If you talk to a lot of people, and I'm sure you've come across some as well, parents and grandparents tell you, get your 5 subjects, get a government job, make sure you stay till you get a pension. Can't go wrong. The government won't go bankrupt. And so a lot of people are just locked into that safe zone, and so, if an opportunity comes outside of that, there's a whole lot to consider.
Right.
Am I doing the right thing? What if it doesn't work? And all of that. And because of fear, people don't necessarily step out. How significant is that?
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I would have spoken to some clients this week with that same challenge. They're fearful of stepping out into something new. And I mean, fear is something, it's a human emotion. It's something that we feel as human beings. But as Christians, one of the things that we have to remember is that in our own strength, we can do anything in our own strength. And we have the backing of a big God behind us. So, yes, and I would say we've been conditioned to think in a particular way, right? It has worked for our parents and our parents' parents, and that's what we were conditioned to believe that having some kind of security in a 8 to 4 job is fine, and it might be fine based on the situation, but there is so much more out there. God has deposited so much into us, so much into you. Some of us are sitting down there on gold mines with our talents, with things that we can do with our hands, with things that we are concocting in our brain. And we are just, so fearful. What if I fail? But what if you succeed? What if you go out there and people like what you are bringing to them. So you would never know. And as time goes by, we don't have time in our hands. So that's one thing I would encourage persons who are feeling a sense of it's good to feel fear, but God didn't give us a spirit of fear. We know what our fear comes. If God didn't give us, we know where it came from. Right? So we need to
Absolutely.
face the fear head on and go forward. Feel the fear and move forward. What if you fly?
Absolutely, absolutely, and the it's easy to lay things down, lay things aside because of fear, and it's very important that we have to be able to get past that. And while you were speaking, I remembered, there was a time I was at a conference, and the pastor was talking about money and how do we treat with money, and he made a point. He said a lot of times people work, and at the end of the month, you're barely able to pay your bills. And he was saying, when you get to that whole budgeting process, you look at if you can't pay your bills, the first question you ask yourself, am I spending too much? So he said, get a pen and a paper, and you list all of your expenses, which you should have done in the first place anyway. But you list all of your expenses, and he said, if after you scratch all the unnecessary things, And you say, you know what? I've trimmed as much as I could trim just so that I could still live. And I still don't have enough money to pay my bills. Then the next option is to increase your income.
That's
And
right.
how do you increase your income?
That's right.
It most likely means getting an additional, is either you get a better job or you get an additional source of income.
Right.
Could you elaborate a little bit? Do you agree with this concept, first of all? And if so, could you elaborate a little bit on it?
Yes, I do agree. So one of the things that I do with my clients is that I look at their income first and foremost. Then I have them make a list of all their expenses. And when we calculate the expenses, what is left, then we decide what we're going to do with that. Most times we find that people might be living above their income. All right. So my next step with them is to, okay, is either we reduce our expenses, right? So I'm seeing here that you're eating out too much. How about cooking some food? And I myself am dealing with that, but that's another conversation. There are many things that we spend money on that we can, if we are resourceful, if we are innovative, we can cut costs. And when I show my clients some of these things, it's like, I've never thought about that. So, and I know that cutting costs might not work for everyone because everybody's situation is different. But I'm very sure that there are some areas which, if we put some better planning into, we might be able to cut costs. So cutting costs definitely is one of the options, and increasing your income definitely. Most of us have an 8 to 4. Most of us might have our own business, but there are other things that we can do, after the 4 o'clock, bell rings. What are you doing with the rest of your time from 5 to about 10? Yes, you can start a business. Social media has made it so easy that we can put our products out there and we can have it go out not just to the local market but to the international market. So and I said this before, some of us are really sitting down on gold mines, and I think one of the issues is this whole notion of owning a business. Some people see it as this big, this big thing to do. And while it might be in some cases, there are different phases that you can, I guess, start, and build up to having a sustainable business. For example, we have some holidays that are coming up. Valentine's Day. We know that that's a day where a lot of people spend money. So what are you going to do? What do you have? What skill do you have that can you benefit from with this holiday that we have a lot of people spending money? Mother's Day is coming up. And to be honest, if it is that you are thinking about increasing your income, now is the time to start planning so that when Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and these things come up, you can start executing. So I encourage my clients, especially the ones who are very fearful of, starting their own business. So let's see it as a project. So phase 1, we're going to see how this goes. February 14th. Let's see how much income we've generated. Let's see what are some of the mistakes we would have made. Mother's Day comes, we would have made some adjustments. We would make some adjustments, of course, to the plan. So there are a multitude of ways that we can create additional streams of income. There's another way. This is a very passive way, which is helping your money is making money for you, and that's in the form of investment. But I guess we'll talk about that a little later, right? But what do you have? What are you sitting down on that you can put out there to get additional streams of income? So, yeah.
I want us to elaborate a little bit on that, because I've come across so many people who are not doing well financially, but you see some people, and they might be a good hairdresser, or they might be able to sew well, or they make good cakes, and they're talented in some area or the other, but they just have a lot of difficulty translating or getting some tangible benefits out of those talents, and it's difficult to develop that idea, that talent, into an actually money making engagement situation. In fact, I remember there was one person who I know makes a good ice cream, and I said to her at one point, why don't you just get some containers, put on a nice label. You don't even have to be extravagant, and start to promote this thing. And
Yes.
eventually she got to that point, and I'm not sure where it is now, but I know that she got to that point where she started selling ice cream, um, homemade ice cream with a label and a nice little container, and she was getting sales now. Ordinarily, she was just saying, "Come taste this ice cream," And I'm saying, "But you make really good ice cream. Why
Mhm.
not Why not monetize it? Why not allow
Right.
yourself to benefit from this thing?" How do people? How do you push people from just basically having that talent to say, let's find creative ways to make money?
Okay. Well, let me just put a plug here. This is one of the importance of having a financial coach, right? You will have that person that you can help you, guide you, put you on the right path. Some of you all might have the idea. You may have the idea, but you don't know where to go from there. So having a coach, or having, even if it's not a coach, being around people who are engaged in the same business, or in business at all, you can get advice from those people. YouTube, and there's a lot of resources online that you can go to get ideas of how to launch out into your business. And one of the things I would say is, start one client at a time, or even one day at a time, or one week at a time. Just start, right? Most people feel like they have to start on this big grand scale, but all of these big businesses that we see established, they did not start at that level. They started small, and gradually they would have grown into what they are today. So the important thing is to start. And what I love about this whole thing is that, in failure, not that I'm saying that we're going to fail, but when we meet stumbling blocks, when we have challenges, we are going to learn, and we're going to get better. So the important thing is to start. Surround yourself with people who can motivate you, who will give you the advice that you need, who can give you the help that you need. Find the right people to be around that you can glean from, because in ourselves, we do need help. We need help to execute, especially when we're going into unfamiliar territory. It's going to be scary. So if you have people around that would have already crossed those lines, then you can learn from them. But as I said, the important thing is just to start. Start.
And my challenge that I have, that I experience with that particular point, is that I when I started doing business, I started hanging around some people who are in business, and I realized that a lot of the people who are successful in business, they have secrets, and they hide secrets. And you have to go digging to understand what those secrets are, and so you have to really be creative. That's why you find sometimes people go work in an establishment
Yeah.
to understand, the dynamics of this environment and so forth. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you have to be able to latch on to somebody who has walked that road before and has a pretty good understanding of particularly even that particular type of business that you want to engage in. Now, let's talk a little bit. And before we go to this next question, for those watching, if you have a question, we're talking with Crystal Celestine. She's a financial coach, and we're talking about managing your finances, how to do better financially. Crystal, earlier you spoke about setting goals, and some common mistakes that people make, and all of that. I want us to go back and delve in a little bit more into those aspects. Let's talk first about the importance, how critical it is to really set your goals, outline. I know you highlighted it, and then I want us to jump right into the common mistakes that you found that people make with managing their finances.
Okay, so goals are so important because they guide us in our decision making. If we do not have goals for our money, then we will just see money leaving, and we would not know where it's going. We will have no account, we wouldn't be able to account for it. So having a goal. Goals help us to make certain decisions, and it guides our action. It actually gives us purpose, right? Every day everyday purpose. So if we have our goals set out, then we know what we're going to do on a Monday, and a Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and a Thursday. We're going to have direction. So as I was saying, some people, they might be trying to buy a vehicle or buy a car or to save more, etc. One of the things one of the action that will come from something like that, okay, I need to look at my spending. I need to cut down on my expenses. I need to, as we spoke about before, increase my income. So having your goals will tell you exactly what you need to do. Let's go to some of the mistakes. Oh, and before I go there, write them down, write down your goals, right? I am a new believer of this trend called the vision board, right? Have your goals somewhere that you can see them from time to time, so that when this month end notification comes on your phone that the pay reaches the bank, you will look at your goals and be able to say, okay, this and this is and this and this is what I'm gonna do. So have them in somewhere that's visible, whether it's on your phone as a screensaver, on your door, if attached and a sticky note to your bank card, have them so that it can help you guide your decisions. All right. So some of the mistakes that I found common with my clients. Number one, we spoke about this already, having no plan. Another one would be having one source of income. Another big one is trying to keep up with everybody else. We have a culture where if we see our friend or neighbor, if we see our family member doing something, we feel that we have to do it or strive to do it, even though it might be outside of our budget or outside of our goals and plans. So one of the things we must learn to do is to literally mind your business, right? We are seeing people with things, we don't know where to get them from, where they came from, and we are trying to get some of those things and foregoing our goals, even going above where our hands can meet. So one of the common mistakes is trying to keep up with the people around you. Another big mistake that I find my clients do, they save and they spend from the same account, right? So the income comes into, let's say, Republic Bank, and that's where they're saving and that's where they're spending. And with that, it's going to be problems. There are going to be a lot of problems because it's so easy. If you're saying that you're going to leave aside $3,000 in the bank, just calling a number, it's going to be different for everybody. And you go to the grocery and you pick up that one extra thing and you say, well, I have the money there, so I'll just swipe my card. We're tapping into our savings. We're tapping into money that we should not touch. So one of the things I recommend for my clients is to have a separate account for saving. All right. So that it wouldn't be as easily accessible in that one account that we're using to pay all our bills. Another mistake that we have is not having an emergency fund. And an emergency fund is different from your savings, because usually I would advise my clients, I would say, if we are saving, let's save with purpose. What are we saving towards? Our saving accounts or savings will be geared towards that. But an emergency fund is something that is totally separate. In the event that something happens, we should not have to forego our goals, our plans to be able to take care of that emergency. So that is another part. That should be another part of your business, a term financial portfolio. So your savings is one thing, and your emergency fund is another thing that you have to be building. So your emergency fund is going to deal with unforeseen things. Like the other day, January, we're in January, so like early January, I would have, reversed and bumped into someone. Yes, luckily for me, I have had my emergency fund, because we know how January is very long. And, had I not have my emergency fund, I would have had to dip into my savings, the things that I'm setting aside for January or for this year. So that's another mistake that I find people make. Focusing on the short term. So we tend to think about the now and not put aside for later. So the short term might be for the year, We focus on that, and we don't focus on what something in 5 years, 10 years later on. Because when we get the older we get, our situation will change, etc. So if we have not been putting things aside for later on, it becomes a burden later on. All right. So make sure and think both short term and long term. Right. So yeah, and not investing. How could I forget that? So you have your savings. That's one thing that you should be putting your money towards. Your emergency fund, you should be trying to at least build one, and then investing. Now, yeah, so let's leave it like that for now, and we'll develop it as we go along.
All right. I want to go back first of all to the emergency fund because there was a financial lecture I was listening to once. Well, it was really a pastor who was giving a financial message. And he was saying that a lot of marriages fall apart because of financial issues and stress, financial stress. And it's something that we take for granted. And he was making the point that, that emergency fund is so important because it can literally ease stress in your life and your marriage. And he was given an example. He said, listen, if you are driving and you get a flat and you realize I have to change this tire, but you don't have any money in your emergency fund, and he said, we're not talking about your savings here. You don't have any money in emergency fund, that becomes a stress in your life. But even if you say, you know what, I don't have money right now, but I can take this from the emergency fund and I can fix this tire. You can fix your tire and you can go along your life without stress. If there's a medical emergency, a legal issue, and you can, reach out and you say, this is what this emergency fund is for. And I can take from that. And he was making this point. You could tell me as a financial coach if this makes sense. But he was making the point that his beginning figure, I know you didn't give a beginning figure. He was saying every home should aim for 1,000 US emergency fund. He said, regardless of which country you live, which currency you convert it, he's saying he thinks that's a practical, you might not have all of it to just go put it in, but he's saying, what he was saying is that you work towards that as a base figure that I can say, you know what, this is our stress-free investment. This is so that we don't have to be pulling our hair out the heads, trying to figure out if this thing pops up, how we deal with it, and so forth. Let me get your take on that.
Well, everybody's situation is different. What I would say is at least try to have an emergency fund 3 times the amount of your expenses. So as I said, everybody's situation is different. So 1,000 US might be like huge to some people, and they might think, well, that's not achievable. But what I try to tell my clients, at least 3 months of expenses. Let's work towards that. And when we get to 3 months of finances, then we can, continue, right? So that's what I would say as it pertains to building your emergency fund. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to start big, right? Because what's it saying? Drip, drip, just fill the bucket. Yeah, it's true. So putting aside what you can, right, will help plug a hole when an emergency comes up. So that's what I would say. At least 3, when you're now starting, aim for at least 3 times of your expenses. And you know what? With this whole COVID-19 and this pandemic, 2020, a lot of my clients, when I sit down and I talk to them, you realize that they were not, well, obviously nobody was prepared for COVID. But now that I'm talking to them about building an emergency fund, they're saying, you know what, if I had this information before, I would not have been, at the position that I was last year. I would have been a little better. So they have made it their duty to start putting aside, not savings. Savings is something totally different, but putting aside a little bit in this emergency fund for rainy days.
And I think you were also making a very good point that, I want to highlight, in terms of having one account. And I know how devastating that could be. You swipe in, and the next thing you know, what you meant to save, all of a sudden you ask, where's all this money disappeared to? And it's a very good point, a very good strategy in terms of being able to ensure that what I intended to save is saved. Do you support maybe going as far to say, let me do some type of statutory deduction automatically, that will automatically go to a separate account? Does it have to be the same bank? I know one person had said, she has 5 accounts in one bank. The bank can't stop you from opening savings account, even though they do that now. But she had 5 accounts, and she said, one was for social media and whatever I want to pay, and next one is for entertainment, next one is for that, and so forth. What do you
Well,
recommend people do?
definitely a standing order will be excellent, because if you don't have to see the money come, if you don't have to touch the money and the money just comes out on its own, it's going to definitely be easier and more convenient for you. It can be within the same bank, because I know of a particular financial institutions where you can, as you were saying, have multiple accounts. However, you are just not allowed to use those accounts by using your card. So you can put the money in the separate account, but you don't have direct access to. But if you do need it for something, you have to put on your clothes, bathe and smell nice, drive, line up, sanitize, and sometimes just the thought of that process. By the time I think about it, you're like, you know what? Let me find another way to get this done, and your money's going to be there, and it's going to be building and building and building. So yes, having a separate account, whether it's in the same bank or in a different bank. And it also helps and encourages you when you see the amount building. When you say, okay, at the end of 3 months, I was able to save $3,000. Yay! You want to save more. So, yes, I would definitely advise you to have a different account for your savings.
All right, let's talk about one of the challenges most young people have when they leave school. You graduated from university, and you're not married yet necessarily, or you might be married. Do I buy a car? Do I buy a house?
Hmm.
If I buy a house, do I live in it? Do I rent it? What exactly should be my first approach in terms of major investment? They're both major investment. In terms of a major investment that I want to make in my life.
Okay, so again, I would go back to, let's start with the financial goals. As I said, everybody's situation will be different. There are some people that have no choice. They have to leave at home and they have to find alternative sources or areas to live in. So it depends on your situation, but let's go back to your goals, because your goals will help you to make that decision. Um, Definitely having your own, it's good. It's going to require a lot of capital in the beginning. So once you've made up your mind that you're gonna use that capital, because you have to think as well opportunity cost. If I'm using this money upfront to build this house, what could I have been using that money for? That I could have been building something else. So think about your opportunity cost if you have to decide to start building. If you're living comfortably where you are, then I would advise my clients, if they really want to get into real estate, okay, so try to get the capital and see what you can build and rent it. And when you are renting, make sure that this this rent that you're collecting can be able. So the aim is to not use your salary to pay back this mortgage. Even if you have to build a house, right? Maybe you can build a section where you can have somebody renting, and that rent could be going towards your mortgage. So you have to know your situation. One of the things I'm telling my young people now, getting a mortgage, it's something that we think it's for older people, you know, but I advise them to go and get information, go to all these lending agencies and see what are the requirements, see what you can do to be able to qualify for a mortgage. Because if you get a mortgage very, very early, 25, right, by the time you're my age, you'd have been 10 years into this mortgage with probably 10 years left. right? So go and get information. Do not limit yourself, right? If you want to buy land, if that's an investment that you are passionate about early, keep your ear out. There are ads all over the place, social media and the papers about properties and land available. Keep your ear out and then go to these institutions to find out, okay, I'm 25. What can I qualify for? What do I need to be able to qualify for these things? Get the information and then you can make decisions. As it pertains to having a car, um, now if your car, the way I see it, if you're using your car to help you generate an income, then that's a great investment. Because if you have to be doing business and you have to be catching car or getting the bus, that might affect your business. So, yes, the popular thing to be out of school and to get a car, you want to go here and everywhere, but what is the opportunity cost of spending that money to buy the car now? I could have invested that into income generating business, right? Let that business become profitable and be able to pay for my car payments rather than using your income that you have now to pay these car payments. So again, it comes down to your goals and your income. What are you trying to accomplish? Having a car is not a bad thing. What when it becomes bad is when it cuts a big chunk of your income and you have to be under strain to be able to make these car payments. So I advise persons, especially young people, don't try to go big your first car, right? Try to get something that's very manageable, and you could always upgrade when you start generating that big bucks, the amount of money that you want to generate. So yeah, so just make smart decisions. Look at your income, look at your goals, think about your opportunity cost, and opportunity cost is basically looking at other alternatives. What could I have been doing with that money instead of investing it so heavily into this car right now?
And I remember when I was signing up for an insurance, and we'll talk about insurance just now. When I was signing up for insurance, the agent, said to me, when your children are done with school, encourage them to go after a house, because even if they take a loan at 23, 25, let's say they want to go the full length and say, I'm going to do this thing for 30 years or 40 years. What that means is that the mortgage payment is going to be so much less,
Smaller, exactly.
rather than you waiting until you 30, 40, when you only have 20, 15 to 20 years to pay for this thing. And so you could literally live a much more comfortable life,
Yeah.
if you decide to double up on your payments, even though banks don't like that. But if you decide, I'm going to double up on my payment, I'm going to find a way to pay some additional money. But if you don't, then you can still live comfortably in your own house, paying a mortgage that is manageable. And so it's good to go after it very, very early. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Because I mean, as young people, as I said, we don't think that a mortgage is something in our reach right now. And yes, that point about the payments being significantly low. If you are stretching out this payment for 40 years, your mortgage might be significantly lower than the 3,000 and 4,000 that some people, sometimes even up to 9,000, some people are paying a month because of their age and the duration, before retirement. So yes, I encourage that. Go to the institutions, find out, what am I gonna get? What can I get? What do I need to be able to get certain things? And keep your ear out for land opportunities and house opportunities. Do not think that it's beyond you. Don't put a cap on yourself at all. So that's what I have to say about that.
All right, let's talk a little bit about insurance.
Right.
Insurance is a very ticklish, very technical subject for some people. Some people say, I don't want anything to do with insurance. It's a waste of money. And others say, you should have insurance as long as you're alive. You should have insurance, and there are multiple benefits of insurance and so forth. Do you see this as absolutely necessary, a critical aspect of your life? Do you see it as an expense that could be wait. I may or may not need to have it. What's your take on that?
Honestly, as an adult, as a responsible adult, I would encourage anybody, everybody to have some kind of insurance, whether it's critical illness, whether it's life insurance. We do not know what the future is going to hold. And I know that a lot of people have a bad, I guess, mindset about insurance. It's money that's leaving you now that you're not able to benefit from, but you can benefit from insurance once you do it the right way. Now there are lots of excellent agents out there. My agent, I'll just shout out Juliet Jacob. She is very excellent. She gives you a lot of information so that it can help you with your decision as it pertains to insurance. But you can use your insurance to save as a and add a savings towards it. So part of the money will be going to saving, part will be going to the insurance. And what that means is that when it's accumulated a particular amount, you can go and borrow. So this is the benefits of insurance while you're alive, right? Now it's not well. You can go and borrow from the savings that this insurance has accumulated, right? And when I say borrow, you don't have to pay back anything per se, but what happens when the policy matures, whatever you would have borrowed would obviously be deducted from the final figure, the lump sum, right? But in terms of the unpredictability of life, we don't know what will happen, and especially if we have dependents, right? People that our income is, we use our income to help, our income to mind. Sorry for that slang, but yeah. Then what is going to happen to them if we do not have something in place, right? We need to start thinking about these things, because if we have young children, right, something happens to us, how are they going to go to school? How in the future? How are they going to get the funds in order to survive, or not survive, maybe an extreme way, but how are they going to get the funds to live a comfortable life? So it's something about being a responsible adult that I would definitely recommend. And we're talking about critical illness as well. You don't know what life is going to throw your way. This body, as we get older, we can't control what happens to this body. So why not have a fund where you can have access to money in the event that something happens to this body, right? And I think one of the issues people have is that they're not seeing the benefits right now. But trust me, when you get that pain and you go to the doctor and they tell you certain things, you're gonna jump for joy, because you would have made that sacrifice before to start that policy. So I really think that insurance is the responsible thing to do, and it also can help to promote generational wealth. When you are born, you have your loved ones will have something that they can continue with. So I advise my clients that's something that they should look into, and that's also a part of your emergency fund. All right, so having good insurance can be a part of your emergency fund portfolio.
Crystal, I know we can't pay you for this discussion this evening. Some very solid points coming out. And I was going to emphasize a point that you just dropped there. That with insurance, for me, it's important that you have a good agent.
Yeah,
You work with somebody who's knowledgeable, who's not just trying to get a sale
yeah,
or just get a commitment. Because there are a lot of experienced insurance agents who can tell you ways that you can, as you said, benefit while you're alive and when
yes,
you're dead. I recently I was able to tap into that one of the benefits of insurance while you're alive,
yeah,
because there was an emergency, and I was able to say, all right, we've been saving towards that. So let's tap into it. It's there, it's available. It's not going to cost anything. And
yeah.
because the investment was made, we were able to tap into it. And so
And
a lot of people still just see it as an expense, but I see it as a necessary expense,
yeah,
if you
but
want to call it that,
it's an
because there
investment.
are benefits. And there are some, a few years ago, I was in the States, and there was a particular segment of society. I don't want to mention their names, but they literally believe so much in insurance. They say, I don't want to die and leave my children without anything. I want my children to know that if something happens, nobody plans to die,
Exactly.
but you die. You can go out there, get an accident, get a heart attack, and you die. But they were saying that if something happens to me, I want my children to have an excellent start. I want them to be able to pay the bills, and take that money and invest in themselves, invest in the future, invest in their children. I know the Bible says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children. And so it's important to think beyond yourself, think beyond now. Of course, there's some benefits, some immediate benefits, but there are also long-term benefits that can go way beyond you in terms of generations to come. And so it's
Exactly.
absolutely necessary that we get insurance,
Pastor Cole,
and maintain it.
I forgot to mention this, but if you are going to take out a mortgage, if that's something that you aspire to do, and life insurance policy can act as collateral, and you would need a life insurance policy if you are going to take a mortgage out. As a matter of fact, some financial institutions require that you take an insurance policy with them. The difference between doing it with the bank and with an outside agency is that when you have finished paying whatever obligations you have to with the bank, then the policy is going to be yours if you have it in an outside agency. But if you do it with the bank, when you are finished, that's it for that insurance that you would have been paying within the bank. So that's another thing. And the younger that you invest in life insurance or insurance on a whole, the cheaper it will be for you. Right? So starting at somebody who's starting a policy at age 25, let's say you are trying to get coverage for $500,000 at 25, your monthly payments might be as small as $200 and something dollars. But let's say a 45-year-old wants that same insurance coverage of $500,000, they're going to be paying like 700, etc. So it gets more expensive with age. So why not start early? Why not start when you are, and 10 to 1, even if you put $200 in a savings account, you will not accumulate $500,000, in, let's say, 10 years or 20 years or whatever the case may be. So you are putting aside a small amount of money for this benefit of $500,000 coverage. I mean, I know the mindset behind insurance, and it's because you're not getting to experience the benefits now, while lots of people have issues and they might have had bad experiences. But as Pastor Cordell said, it's based on your agent. Make sure that your agent is well informed, that they are patient, that they give you the information that you require. Make sure that you like them, you feel comfortable with dealing with them, because they will have a lot of information that you would need.
Right. And we just have about 11 minutes to go. If you're watching and there's something that you want clarified, now is the time. You're not sure when we're gonna have Crystal back. I know she's gonna go big, so we might have to make some bookings to get her on the program. So if you want to ask her any particular question, you just have a few minutes to jump in and ask her the question. Crystal, this whole concept of having a financial coach is still new. We know as an athlete you need a coach, or else you're not likely to go anywhere. The coach for teams and all of that. But in terms of finances, we find ourselves struggling through to figure things out. Our parents teach us as much as they know. And in many cases, even according to Pastor Baines, even the pastors teach you as much as they know,
Right.
or they understand. And so sometimes you are struggling to figure this thing out. Maybe you grew up in a home that people weren't that educated or accomplished, and so they themselves had no idea what to do. How important it is to tag along with a coach. I know for businesses you spoke about having a mentor, um, how important it is. And this is not for you to just sell yourself, but really to talk about the importance of it.
Okay, so I'm going to use a scripture to answer that question. And this scripture comes from Proverbs 15:22. So take note of it. It says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. All right, this is from the Bible. And it's important to seek help because again nobody knows everything, and I know some of the challenges most people have. They have so many things in their mind going on. They just don't know how to pull it out, how to organize it so that it can take form. And that's what a coach would do. A coach is going to listen to you. A coach is going to, based on their resources. And I, even as a coach, I don't know everything, but I make sure that I'm connected with coaches and advisors so that I can even get information for clients who may need information that I don't have. So it's important to have a coach to direct you, to guide you, to ask certain questions, to pull information out of you so that you will be able to make sense of what you might be dealing with up here. In addition to which, having a coach it gives you somebody to be accountable to. So, like for example, I would have been talking to a potential client on Friday because we were supposed to have a chat, and she said she's going out later tonight, and I said, well, I know that we got paid, so make sure that you don't swipe that card too much. Remember our goals. So just somebody to be accountable to, somebody to encourage you and motivate you and to make sure that you're on the path that you want to be on, because you have to have your goals, right? Sometimes you have your ideas, you have your plan, but you just need somebody to brainstorm with, to hold your hand along the way, to direct you. And that is what a coach is. And actually, if you listen to some of these billionaires and some of these popular people that we look at on podcasts and on television, Oprah, etc., these people have coaches. They have coaches. This is not a culture that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, but I'm hoping that we will see the importance of having a coach, having a mentor, having somebody to talk to help us get to the place that we want to be.
That's a very good point. In fact, there's a very wealthy pastor that I know, and he said, I I have somebody who manages my finances, who makes recommendations. Of course, at the end of the day, he has the ultimate say because he's operating. There are times when the Holy Spirit will tell him things that will conflict with what the financial guy says. But he's saying that I still have somebody who's there to manage, to give me recommendations and advice based on the expertise, because I don't know everything and I don't want to squander that what God has given to me. We have a question from, I think it's Akinola McLean, and it says, what is the difference between an asset and a liability?
Okay, Akinola, that's a good question. An asset, I like to think of an asset as something that helps you to generate an income, right? So anything that you can use or you own that can help you to generate an income, that to me is what an asset is. A liability, of course, would be things or debts that you have. So that's the difference. An asset, something that you own that has value, that can help you generate future income or current income, and a liability will have to do with your debts, the monies that you owe persons.
All right, so I hope that answers the question, Akinola. And if anybody else has any question, you just have about 2 or 3 minutes before we go. And let me just remind you that you are watching the Tobago Inspirational Network. It's a television channel, 24-hour Christian television channel based in Tobago, Wim Development, Tobago. Of course, we are on the Trico Network, channel 137. And in Guyana, we are on the Atlantic Cable Network on channel 2. But of course, if you have a Roku device, you can watch Tobago Inspirational Network on Roku. Just look for Roku. And if you have an Android phone or an iPhone, you can go and download the app and you can watch the channel 24 hours a day. So there's an app available on Google Play and on the App Store. So wherever in the world you are, you can watch the Tobago Inspirational Network. And of course, if you go to the YouTube channel, you can watch, there are thousands of videos produced by many of the pastors and ministers on TIN, and then you can go and you can benefit from great programming on TIN, and there's a lot more in store in the near future. So you can stay locked into TIN. Next week, we're going to be back again with another discussion. We have two power-packed discussions that will be coming back to back. We're going to be talking about suicide next week. And the following week, a very contentious issue. Why do people leave church? Why are people leaving church? All right. That is those are two programs you don't want to miss. So we're going to be rounding up, Crystal. I want you to just share a little bit. Well, first of all, is there any key bit of information you want to share that we didn't talk about tonight and you figure these people must get this information?
Yes, let me just say this really quick. I really wanted to talk a little bit about investments. Now, let me just put out a disclaimer. I am not an investment expert. However, I encourage my clients to find some kind of investment vehicle or instrument that can help generate passive income for them. So I have a client recently who has been pushing me to delve further and further into investments and doing my research as it pertains to investment. But there are just 3-4 things I want to just let you know about that. When people hear about investments, they think stock market. They jump straight to stock market. And that is not the only form of investment that you can get into, right? So getting into investments, there are very low risk instruments and high risk instruments. So the stock market will be high risk, right? But we have things that, the regular people like me would get involved in, such as like the money markets and like fixed income funds. These are some of the instruments you can use. So the benefits of these are they are experts, investment experts who actually handle these funds. So it's a pool of money, right? That, it's managed by experts. And what they do is they take this pool of money. So if you have $100, $200, you put it into the pool, they're going to take that money and invest it into other assets. And when those assets generate some kind of profit, then you are paid money. You are paid something called dividends. For some institutions, you will get it biannually, or you can get it annually or quarterly, depends on the organization that you use. But that is one of the simplest, low-risk way of investing. And another thing as it pertains, and this is the last one, is investing in yourself. People invest in yourself. You are the best investment that you can make, right? So what skills can you learn? What course can you take? What can you invest in you that can help you to generate additional revenue? So invest in yourself, right? And that's going to pay off in the long run. Now, we don't have time to talk about the stock market and real estate, but you can call me, contact me, inbox me on Facebook, and I would love to start talking about these things with you and helping you get to the place that you want to be financially. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right, Krista, you could use this opportunity just to go forward and just give them specifically any contact details that you want to share this time, because I know some people probably are very interested in what was said tonight and they're inspired to go further with their finances. So go ahead, let them know exactly how they can find you and how they can get your help.
All right, so my name on Facebook is Crystal Celestine. So just search for Crystal Celestine and you will see my profile. If you inbox me, I will respond. You can also call me or WhatsApp me on 738-2416. 738. I will probably put a little status update after this so that you will have my number. So yeah, our first meeting is free. I just want to get a gist of where you are and where you want to go. And then we could go forward after, I have seen where you are. So yeah, inbox me, call me, I'm available.
And let me just make the point, Crystal, that this program is much beyond Tobago, and so I hope you're prepared to deal with clients outside of Trinidad and Tobago. We have people in different parts of the world, including Guyana, where I am right now, watching the program, and so they are likely to connect with you. And I just want to make sure that that is possible, that you'll be able to connect with them wherever
Of
they are.
course, definitely, definitely.
All right, great. So, Crystal, thank you so much. It has been an enlightening discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I learned stuff tonight as well. So I'm very very happy, and it's a great way to get the show back up and running. And next week, people, don't forget 8 o'clock. We're going to be right here again. We have some pastors who will be on, and we'll be talking about suicide. Suicide is a major challenge. I really recently came across an adult who was actually telling me that I was so stressed out that I just started doing things to kill myself. And she was using strategies that young people I've seen young people use, and it's a significant challenge. People are having suicidal thoughts, and they have to understand how to manage it. And so if you know somebody who's been struggling with suicidal thoughts, feel free to let them hop on the program next week. And then the following week, we're going to be talking about trying to figure out why some people are leaving church. What is happening? So stay with us. And remember, if you want to contribute to the Tobago Inspirational Network, we survive by contributions. Some people, and you're in Trinidad and Tobago, you can go to any FCB bank. The account number is 203-4679. I don't have my technical assistance tonight, so can't pop it up on the screen, but 203-4679 at any FCB bank, and you can make a contribution, even if it's $100. That's fine, right? And if you're outside of TNT, you can always go on the website. There's a tab there you can give, and you can be a part of the Giving to TIN. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Crystal. Thank you to all those who joined us tonight. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. And of course, as I always end, surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and we shall dwell in the presence of Almighty God forever and ever. Amen and amen. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye, everybody.